welcome back, Irina K and my channel Astrobabushka. I am Vedic astrologer, soon to get my master's in psychology, and my goal in this series of the videos to prove that astrology can complement psychology in the matters, in the mental health matters, disorders. This is a great tool that can help police and psychologists to prevent future crimes. Today is episode 4, and I chose the chart of Jeffrey Dahmer. And I challenged myself a little bit. I decided not to read anything about him because I have no idea. I had no idea about who he is, what he's done. And so just from the blank space, I decided to see his chart as someone random, without having any prejudice, any thoughts that I need to prove something that I know already about his psyche. And so that was a bit challenging, and also his chart is a bit challenging. But I still, it was a little hard not to crack. But I think I got into the deepest of the deepest part of it. And yeah, if you're interested, please keep watching. And so this is the chart of Jeffrey Dahmer. He was born 21st May 1960, 4 p.m. 34 minutes. I found this birth certificate in the web that shows this exact birth time. As I know by experience, it can be plus, minus few minutes. But more or less, we have the correct time, and we have the material to work with. And traditionally, this is episode 4, and I start each episode with reading the words of Ted Bundy. And this is something that triggered me to start the whole series. We want to be able to say we can identify these dangerous people. And the really scary thing is you can't identify them. People don't realize that there are potential killers among them. How could anyone live in a society where people they liked, loved, lived with, worked with, and admired could the next day turn out to be the most demonic people imaginable? Ted Bundy, I'm taking the challenge, and with the help of astrology and teachings that are more than 3,000 years old, and with the help of teachings of my astrology teachers, Kane Rao, Mr. Gowell, and Mark Boney, I want to prove that astrology can help government and psychologists to prevent crimes, specifically with the people who already been diagnosed with some dangerous for society mental health disorders, or who already committed crimes. Another interesting thought I found by Mr. Edmund Burke. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. I think we should start doing something. Okay, as a baseline, we always start with Lagna to analyze the person. And we see here is a Virgo Lagna, and ruler, because it's a nakshatra, it's ruled by Mars. So by itself, Virgo people are a very hyper analytic, detail oriented, mentally restless. I myself have a moon in Virgo, and this is my mind. I constantly analyzing and picking on things inside my head, and for the most of my life and the childhood, to be honest, mentally I was pretty much struggling with restlessness. But with the help of meditation, yoga, specifically Vipassana meditation, I managed to help regulate my mental constant agitation, to stabilize it, and use it for the good. This is the goal of astrology. Whenever we have some placements, with the help of astrology, we can analyze it, and we can help to take the most good out of it. Now, the ruler of Lagna is Mercury, and it goes to the 9th house, which creates beautiful Raja yoga. Together with Sun, it's a Buddha-Aditya yoga. So Mercury itself, it's all about intelligence, reasoning, and it's the neediness to explain the world around you, to go to dissect it into pieces. Virgo rising also often struggles with over-analysis, and as a result of over-analysis goes anxiety, and from the anxiety it can be, if there's some affliction in the chart, it can be repression of emotions. And emotions, speaking of emotions, we go to the moon that is in the 7th house together with Mars. And remember, Mars is the ruler of nakshatra of Lagna, which is also have everything to do with a person's identity, the core identity. What is the driving forces of the person? The 7th house mirroring the self. It's right across, right? So here's the 7th house. It's in Pisces. And as we see here, all Kendras are in dual signs. So the person is pretty movable. It's pretty, it's not grounded. So the moon, mind, emotions, joined with Mars, which is traditionally willpower and aggression. And they are together in the watery sign Pisces, which is very watery, emotional. So right from that, we can expect the person to be emotionally volatile, on top of being in dual sign, of course. There might be inner storms and some sort of hot tears. This is what destined for this person with these placements. Without benefic aspects or supports, as we can see here, nothing supports Moon here. Moon is, despite the fact that it's benefic, supposed to be benefic itself, but it's not, and I will talk about this just a little bit later. There's no other benefics that would support it. Jupiter is not aspecting it, Mercury is not aspecting it. And so Moons becomes inflamed easily by Mars, by aggression, and mood swings can be from the tenderness to the violence. Moon is also is darkened. It's waning. So when Moon is waning, it becomes malefic. And it's together with a planet that rules the 8th house of death transformation, and the worst house to be ruled in a Vedic astrology chart. And the 3rd house is also soft dusthana. So Pisces here adds confusion, escapism, sometimes it can be addictive tendencies. Psychologically, relationships for the person with this placement are sort of battlefield of emotions, projection of inner rage onto partners. It can be strong but very unstable, dual, double-faced passions. This dark moon, it adds a tone of depression, isolation, and self-undoing. It gives this inner emptiness or a sense of being unlit. The psyche of the person is darkened. Now, Jupiter, supposed to be benefic, right? And it's a dispositor of Moon and Mars. It's in the 4th house in Sagittarius in its own sign, so supposed to be very, very well situated. But we're going to see now what is wrong with the Jupiter. It could have been a placement with us that gives the person a strong emotional foundation, mother's guidance, some inner wisdom. But there's a Saturn. And Saturn is strong here because it's a ruler of the 5th house in the 4th, so it creates a Raja Yoga. And it's definitely more strong than Jupiter because Jupiter here is a Kendrapati, creates a Kendrapati dosha. For the Virgo ascendant, it rules Kendras and it's not Lagnas. So it becomes all the benefic forces of the Jupiter are minimizing here. So in this situation, Saturn dominates, and Saturn is in a high vibrational level. It's discipline. But on the low vibrational frequencies, it can be repression. Psychologically, early home environment may have both support and restriction and fear. But restriction and fear is winning over the support and guidance. And the heart, which is 4th house, becomes a battlefield. The person needs warmth, it needs guidance, but in the end, it always goes into the constant repression. Saturn is also heavily impacting Lagna. On top of being under the influence of Mars, malefic moon, that is malefic in this chart. It also have a 10th aspect from Saturn. And look, the degree, Saturn is 26 degree and Saturn is 24, and Saturn is also retrograde here. Together with Jupiter, so they are even more heavily afflicting the whole thing. Jupiter, by the way, is only have 13 Ishtabala, 13 instead of like whenever we see less than 20 in Ishtabala in the benefic, that's mean it's another sign that benefic is not gonna bring anything beneficial to the person. So the affliction of Saturn to the Lagna gives this gloomy, basically from the heart to the self, to the whole character, it casts the shadow. It casts even more seriousness, even more gloomy. Also, it can be very high level of self-judgment. The impossibility to forgive himself for anything. And with the strong Buddha-Aditya yoga in the 9th house, with this high intellect, together it can work very unfavorably for the person. Intellect is brilliant. The mind shines with clarity. Mercury is not very close. Yes, it's combusted 63%. It's pretty combusted, yes, but I've seen worse, and it didn't give any bad influence, such as here. We can see all the capacity for reasoning, for higher knowledge, for self-reflection. The person might leans on their ability to understand, categorize, and outthink others. So probably the person feels like he's more superior than others around him, intellectually wise. However, afflicted ninth house can be connected with a crisis of faith, distorted worldview, potential fall from karmic path or high frequency path. Now, what about Venus? Venus is the planet of love. In this situation, it's also Atmakaraka, so it's a soul's path. And being in the 8th house, being in one of the last degrees, it's also in the death degree. It's in the Mrityu Bhaga. It's a Pushkar Navamsha, which is very strong. It's also a little bit combusted by being not far from the sun. So all of this gives additional layer of struggle for the person. Venus is ruling 2nd house of values, speech, family, and the 9th house of faith, higher guidance. With being in the 8th house of crisis, transformation and death, it can bring this distorted desires and difficulty in intimacy. As Atmakaraka being afflicted, also it's hemmed between malefics, because moon is malefic, being waning, and sun is malefic. So on the level of Atmakaraka, the soul, because Atmakaraka is the soul's path, why the soul decided incarnate, one of the reasons why the soul decided to incarnate here in this life, this is from spiritual point of view, to wrestle with betrayal, to experience broken love, to misuse of pleasure, and some sort of distorted aesthetics. In Mrityu Bhaga, and it is a critical degree, it suggests another layer of soul pain. Hemmed between malefics, no protection, and Venus energy gets suffocated. In Navamsha, we see that Venus is together with Rahu, and Rahu being here a criminal. Whenever Rahu is in a Sagittarius, it brings the worst out of Rahu influence. And together with Venus, it intensifies this perversion of love and faith and crisis of truth. Psychologically, to translate it from astrological layer language to psychology, to the language of psychology, it's a person who's longing for love, but he's attracted to everything that is taboo, everything that is shadowed, and a soul path is confronted, his soul is confronted by this distorted Venusian desires. So, to wrap it up, before this is the layer of my analysis without knowing who exactly this person. Just my guesses based on the his chart. Needless to say, his moon is in Chitra, so that means he's it's in Revati, and Revati is ruled by Mercury, and so his life path started with a planetary period of Mercury right in the end. So till 4 years old, he was in Mercury period. And Mercury is in the 9th house with the Sun. So might be a big influence of the father again. So going back to psychological picture, overall, like astro-psychological picture here, what we see in the 7th house give emotional intensity, but without regulation. It's impulsive, angry, or escapist tendencies. Jupiter promises guidance, but it's weak, it's afflicted, it's all his beneficent energies are minimized, and it's the Saturn suppress whatever good left out of it. So psyche feels emotionally unsupported and cold inside. And I forgot to mention, not only it's aspecting as ascendant, it's also aspecting his moon. And it's all very close in degree, 26, 24, 26 again. So with Venus falling in the 8th house and hammed and afflicted, there's a struggles with intimacy, with where love becomes entangled with taboo and pain. Saturn brings to his ascendant, to his Lagna, to his self and to his mind, emotional mind, everything is under influence of Saturn, and it brings heaviness, guilt, constant self-judgment. It could manifest as a severe self-discipline or depression. With Moon being directly in front of the ascendant, especially in the same degree, it speaks for itself. So it's definitely unstable partnerships, and he sees, he might even see demons subconsciously in his potential partners. And again, explosive attachments, heart split, high level of intelligence become the tool to justify or rationalize the destructive urges. And the intimacy is shadowed. Outwardly intelligent and rational, but inwardly stormy, dark, and compulsive. And, I got a bit cornered just by Rāśi. You can see some depressive tendencies. Yes, you can see some troubles to the psyche, maybe some sexual issues or mental blockages, but the person is extremely smart and neat, and even popularity for him is destined, because the rule of the 1st and the 12th house together in the 9th house, it's beautiful Raja Yoga for the popularity, to the sign that this person can become pretty famous. And actually, indeed, he became famous, but for what deeds? Why person turned to such a dark path in his life, and why the life bent toward darkness instead of sublimation. And here where I started doing my studies about the person, his history. I was watching some interviews with him to understand the situation in infancy and his childhood. And I have to say that normally I would always check Karesh in 22nd Rikana and 46 Navamsha when the chart doesn't show that, last drop of darkness or heaviness, or sometimes it adds the last drop for the mental health. And I will make another study on Karesh and specifically on mental health disorders connected to it. But it's also in the charts of serial killers or murders or criminals. Most of the time, it shows some affliction by it. But here, we know that Mercury is Karesh, but it's not double Karesh. And this is where the person started his life. He started it in the Mercury period. So affliction was to his father or through his father. But again, it's not double Karesh, and I wouldn't emphasize it so much. Then it was Ketu period, right? And it was until 11 years old, so approximately until the puberty period was his Ketu period. And Ketu here we see under strong influence by Saturn. Again, it's not very far in the degree. Degree is very important in understanding how heavily malefic or benefic will afflict or support the planet. And here Saturn, one of the strongest malefic, affecting Ketu again. So that's the sequence of the planetary influence in the life of the person shows us, unfortunately, that, one is worse than another. Still, it's not enough for me to understand the whole picture about the family. We know that his mom was on antidepressants, probably during the whole pregnancy. And there's a studies that shows that it can impact the fetus, in the growing fetus in the mother's body. And here I would look into the fourth house. Fourth house is if we're analyzing mother, this is the house to see first and foremost. And to translate this analysis, we can see that his mom, he didn't really have a chance to support his child. As I said already, that Jupiter is low in Ishtabala. It's under the influence of Saturn, and it's a ruler of two kendras that are not Lagna. So most of his beneficial properties are lost. But here's another thing to say. In Drikana, from the fourth house, so we can see Karesh not only for the person, we can see Karesh also for their family members of this person. And for the mother, Karesh is Jupiter. We can see it through the Drikana chart. And for the mother, Karesh in Navamsha chart is Saturn. So in her chart, she has two planets that influencing her, and both of them Karesh. So here we see right from, we understand why she was struggling so much. We don't know why she was struggling, but she was definitely, we can see in her son's chart. We don't know. We can speculate that maybe that he came to the life, and that's what added the level of struggleness, or maybe it's reflecting her already struggles, probably with the father, with her husband. We don't know that. We can only speculate. But now we understand for sure that her struggles were pretty much real. And now, from now on, I want to emphasize that I can go into the theory that cannot be very popular regarding Jeffrey Dahmer. It can be pretty controversial. I read that some people looks like thought about this as well. Whatever, I will develop my thought now. But I just want to say that we have a chart of the person. I have a date of birth of his father. And based on that, it's going to be pure astrological speculation and my fantasies as an astrologer now. And this is where the most interesting part now starting about Jeffrey Dahmer. What Jyotish demands when a chart doesn't give away the secret in Rāśi alone, why it happened and why it went in so much darkness, in so much evil forces, we use divisional charts. And we have more than 60 of them to see different parts of the person's nature, psyche, work, career, relationship. And so the most deepest, one of the deepest divisional chart we have in our hands as astrologers is D60. It's called Shashtyamsha. It's the deepest layer of the soul karma. It's the most deepest karmic imprint. And here we see again Moon and Mars together. And it's suggesting that being in the 8th house, again, it's repeats the themes of Rāśi. It's emotional volatility tied to aggression, hidden compulsion, fascination with taboo. And in the soul's chart, the D60, it becomes unescapable. The native's core residue is entangled with violence and disturbed emotional chemistry. Mercury Lagna is again strong here in Gemini, in its own sign, but it's in the 6th house. But houses we're not touching here because they can change if there's even like 1 minute difference in the birth chart. I'm just watching here the signs, and it's on the Rahu-Ketu axis, so it's afflicted by Rahu, and Rahu is creating this perverted rationalization. It's adding up to Mercury. So if it's thinking, so it becomes obsessive. If it's experimentation, it becomes compulsive and distorted. How about Venus, the planet of love, and Atmakaraka? Here, it's again with a strong Saturn. So it has influence of Saturn, and it's the soul's lesson is darkened by Saturn. Instead of intimacy, it is transmuted into control and death scenarios. Now, when we see the lineage, the paternal lineage, it's D45 chart. So it's like a genetical, very deep connection of Jeffrey Dahmer with his lineage on the father's side. And here we see Mercury debilitated. And remember that Mercury was the beginning 4 years of life in Jeffrey Dahmer life. The Mercury planetary period was till 1964 when Ketu started. And also Moon is here together. And again, it's afflicted by Rahu and Ketu. And the paternal lineage here carried this disturbed mental patterns. It can be broken communication due to the Mercury being afflicted there, disturbed emotions, compulsive tendencies. It can be some tainted inheritance in the nervous system. Now what we see here, the most striking again, is Jupiter in debilitation sign. And there's no cancellation of this debilitation here. So there's no wisdom. Wisdom is burned. It's in front of the sun here. So sun is definitely having, again, adding even more affliction to the Jupiter. Faith is corrupted. So even here, Jupiter doesn't have any strength. So that's mean Jeffrey Dahmer had no inner compass to inherit from his father. There was no protective ancestral hand to guide him through his darkness. So altogether, if we connect D1, D9, D45, D60, there's no motherly warmth, there's no paternal guidance, and even though it's not just no paternal guidance, it might be very distorted, and there's no benefic rescue in divisional charts. So the brilliance of this position of Mercury and Sun in the 9th house, having beautiful Raja Yoga for being famous and popular, it's poisoned, and instead of this is very big potential for a surgeon. It can, especially with the Sun being in Kritika nakshatra. Kritika sign symbol of nakshatra is knife. And he was showing from the beginning of his life this obsession with dead bodies of animals. So instead of, if the benefics were good, if the moon was not darkened, if the Jupiter was not afflicted, maybe he would be able to move this obsession to this path, to the surgeon, to the scientist, to the thinker. But it didn't happen. Now, I read about some sort of genetic mutations in Jeffrey Dahmer, and it's called warrior gene. And this warrior gene has been linked to multiple serial killers. It's called, the abbreviation for this is MAOA. There have been many questions raised about whether people are born serial killers or whether environmental factors are the cause. But most psychologists agree that it's often a combination of both. So it's a gene, it's environmental factors, and it's, environmental factor include the environment where the person was growing up, When it comes to genetics, some individuals have a variant of an enzyme called monoamine oxidase A. Again, it's a MAOA, nicknamed the Virgin, due to its association with aggressive and risk-taking behaviors. It plays a key role in breaking down the neurotransmitters responsible for positive emotions, such as noradrenaline, serotonin, and dopamine. And having levels of MAOA that are too high or low can have negative effects on our mood and behavior. While you would think that having low levels of MAOA would have a positive effect because of the increase of happy hormones, research has revealed that people with low activity MAOA are often more sensitive to negative stimuli, leading to heightened aggression. Now, when I connect the dots between what the medical Vedic astrology say about these genetic mutations, what we need to look for. We need to look for Mercury, because it's all about neural pathways. In medical astrology, Mercury is a neural pathways, and when it's afflicted, there can be miswiring in communication within the brain. Then if it's Saturn Rahu affliction to Moon and Lagna, which here we see both, Saturn directly aspecting ascendant, and it's an a Kendra Sambandha within very tight degrees with Moon. It's a psychological detachment, coldness of empathy. The affliction to the 12th house, we have a Rahu here, that acts as a sun. So whenever it was Mercury period, it was also activated because it gives a subconscious disturbances, hidden compulsion. Isolated moon or afflicted moon can give social emotional detachment, sometimes pathological. Excuse me. Now, in medical astrology, Moon is all about neurotransmitters and emotional regulation. Mars, it's primal drive, Saturn repression, blockages, psychological rigidity. Sixth house is all about diseases, genetics, imbalances. And this is when Ketu was activating. Ketu was active from 4 to 11 years old. So, and the sixth house was having its impact on the person's life. So anything genetic could develop from 4 to 11 years old. And this is, I think, exactly the moment when he started his experiments with animals. Now, 8th house in a medical astrology connecting to the genetics. It's a karmic imprints, hidden disorders, hereditary karma. So it's a karma in anything that, like, the genetics could carry. And 12th house is mental hospital, subconscious patterns, self-undoing. But when I was analyzing this, I was like, okay, but it should be analyzed together with the father. And hello, we have the birth date and the birth year of his father. And again, I'm emphasizing that it's total astrological speculation. I don't want to get into any trouble by saying anything uncertain. So it's a fantasy. It's a fantasy based on astrological positions. Before analyzing his father, I want to play a few clips that I found to be very disturbing.
You had dreams
Hmm.
Of committing murder yourself?
Almost always after I was either physically or in some other way harassed by bullies, I would wake up, say, the next morning.
So if you look at his body language right here, watch his eyes.
Always after I was either.
So all of that blinking, that suggests stress. So when our blink rate picks up, that means that what we're talking about is stressing us out. So as he's talking about the idea of bullies, that seems to be something that really bothers him.
Physically or in some other way harassed.
And as you saw him say, harassed, eyebrows went up. He really wants you to hear that when he feels harassed, that's when he would have these types of impulses. I guess that's an important detail for him.
Almost always after I was either physically or in some other way harassed by bullies, I would wake up, say, the next morning, and I would have this feeling that I had hurt someone, that I had maybe hurt them badly, that I had killed them.
That's such an unusual experience for people to have. The idea of somebody.
So, his father was speaking about his childhood, and he said that he has been harassed, he has been bullied, and he was suffering when he was a kid. And he had these fantasies of hurting back, and not just hurting back, but he's just saying it directly, killing. Now, next one.
Felt like I was in control and I had some power. I was noticed.
And look at him smiling.
Look his face. He was in control, he was in power, and he was noticed. So, who wants to be in control? In control wants to be psychopaths. And this speaks for itself. Next.
Insides of dogs or foxes as you made your way around the neighborhood on.
I think it started out as just childhood curiosity.
Just to see what it looked like inside?
Right. And something went wrong.
Was there some pleasure in the cutting open of the animal?
Yes, there was.
There you go again. When he has strong reactions, you see him nodding.
And that was Ketu period. Ketu period that I was just saying about. And the last one, last but not least.
A propensity for obsession or violent behavior. Does any of that ring true to you?
I could see why he'd wonder about those things, but as far as I'm concerned, they're all excuses. I feel it's wrong for people who commit crimes to try to shift the blame onto somebody else, onto their parents or onto their upbringing or living circumstances.
Now, this is interesting. As he's talking about this,
he's talking about that like the way he talked. Before he was talking slower, and he had the pauses between the words, and he had the chance to like think through before he speaks, right? Here he was speaking. He gave like big piece of information, like he knew what to say, he knew how to say, and he's been trained. For me, it gives this vibe. The father is sitting behind him, and he's just basically, he's been told to say that no, it's not my father, it's not their fault, it's not their bringing, it's me. Now, just a little bit to add to this, a little weird vibe of this person. I don't know if anyone saw Evil TV show, but this is Leland, and his father is Lylan. And when I realized how much they have in common, like Lionel. His name is Lionel, and here's Leland. And it's him. It's this, and he was a complete psychopath in this series. And he also had been bullied when he was a kid. And I mean, the resemblance is just, I don't know. It's almost like someone was playing him, or they took him as an inspiration. Second, I need to fix the mic. Sorry. Okay. Now, Lionel, we need to find his birthday now. Lionel Dahmer, birthday. July 29, 1936. Okay. Here it is. So just for you to understand a little bit better, on the right is a chart of the Jeffrey Dahmer, and on the left is a chart of his father. First and foremost, his moon in Scorpio, with Jupiter being also retrograde, and Saturn also retrograde. And here we see in his sun chart, Jupiter and Saturn both retrogrades. So that gives a little bit of idea of connection. Is both. They both have afflictions to that. Now, his father's Saturn is on the edge between two signs. It's retrograde, and it's sitting the same degree on the Jeffrey's Ketu. 29 degree of Aquarius. Sixth house is disease, imbalance, inherited flaws. And Ketu period was from 4 to 11 years old in Jeffrey Dahmer life. So the repression, rigidity, and blockages of his father could have impacted directly Jeffrey Dahmer. Ketu is everything from past life. It's a karmic, it's ancestral shadow, and it's a gene make marker. So basically his father's energy, his father's insecurities, all his childhood problems and the bullyings and everything that he went through, it's sealed into the psyche of Jeffrey Dahmer. This is what we see through astrology. I don't know what happened exactly. Again, this is astrological speculation. So this directly linking to this warrior gene, as I was speaking before, MAOA. Now, the Lionel's Saturn is also afflicting Jeffrey's Venus. It's like not enough for her to be afflicted so much by Hemd, by two malefics, by being in the edge and by being in the 8th house, and being a Maraka because it's ruling the 2nd house of death. On top of this, also his father is directly aspecting it, and it's the same degree. It's 29. It's within 1 degree. It's extremely strong effect. And it freezes love intimacy, and distorting value system. So psychologically, the obsession of the root of Dahmer obsession with control can be traced here. And again, as I just showed you the video from interview, Lionel had extreme obsession with control and being noticed. And it directly went to Jeffrey, the idea to be of full control. Now, the moon in Scorpio of Lionel is aspecting with the 7th aspect the Mercury, the Lagnesh itself of the Jeffrey. His intellectual mind and his self-identity, because it's a Lagnesh. Moon in Scorpio is all about turbulent emotions, secrecy. Joined with Jupiter here, we can see something like she wants to teach some morals, and together, like this distorted teachings goes directly into the head of the Jeffrey Dahmer. And this father's emotional instability projected straight into son's nervous system and his processing pathways. Remember, the Mercury is in medical astrology is a neural. It's all about neural pathways. So it can play some sort of miswiring role in the development of the brain of Jeffrey. Now, like, it's not enough yet. Lionel has Rahu here in Sagittarius. Again, remember, Rahu becomes extremely criminalistic in Sagittarius, and it sits directly on the Jupiter of the Jeffrey. And Jupiter is a symbol of his mother, symbol of his heart, and Rahu is contaminating it. It's destabilizing. It corrupts and it distorts. And not only it's devastating for Jeffrey, it's devastating, looks like, for his mom. And now the picture is becoming complete with having synastry with his father. After watching the interviews, after understanding the whole story, it just gets very obvious. So based on that, Jeffrey wasn't just a troubled individual, and his chart shows intellectual potential, but every possible benefic escape and afflicted. What about mother? The mother, we know that she was chronically depressed and addicted to medication. The question is why? Is it also genetic? Probably. But living with a man like Lionel, Scorpio, Moon, and Saturn affliction, it could absolutely destabilize her psyche even more. If she sensed or knew what was happening with Jeffrey, depression could be both a symptom and a form of escape the situation. Her insistence on checking Jeffrey's brain may reflect real suspicion that something abnormal was happening at home. Remember, after death of Jeffrey, she was insisting to study his brain if it had any abnormalities. Going back to the father, right? With the Saturn on Ketu, with Rahu on Jupiter, with the Moon afflicting Mercury, with Saturn afflicting Venus. I mean, all this suggests instability and a cold, repressive parenting. Probably, I mean, he may not have created this Jeffrey's urges, but his energy directly triggered and activated and shaped them. Now, even more conspirological, Jeffrey kills his first victim at 18 years old, just after his mother leaves. And his mother left him and his father, and she took another son with her. So the official story was that she abandoned him, and that can be one of the reasons why Jeffrey felt his first urge, and that's why he killed someone, because he didn't want to be left alone. But what if he kills, then family panics, and mother leaves with younger son to protect him, the younger son? Leaving staged as a family split, but in reality, it's damage control and protection of the other child. This scenario would explain why the family was strangely silent, fragmented, and inconsistent in their later statements. Why Joyce fixated on the idea that something wrong was with his brain. Maybe it was the way of externalizing a guilt as well. Why Lionel so eagerly took on the public role of scientist father trying to understand, deflecting suspicion from himself. Now, it doesn't have to mean, like, what if, I remember there was also some information about Lionel saying that Jeffrey had few or one brain injury when he was a childhood, when he was a child in the childhood. And Lionel himself, he was a scientist and chemist, and he was into this as well. Could Lionel have experimented on Jeffrey when he was young and he started to show some signs of abnormality? Because that would explain why later on Jeffrey was doing experiments with his own victim by putting the hot water in the brain or acid, something like that. 3 possible truths for why Joyce left. She couldn't handle 2 disturbed men, to cover up because she knew something had happened, first murder, and her departure was partially staged to protect the family narrative, because then right away they sent him to, or they say that he went to army right away after this. But maybe that was the way of them thinking that they can protect him from doing it again. Or it can be also protective instinct, that she took the younger son to save him from being dragged into the vortex with Jeffrey. Interesting that Jeffrey is repeating everywhere that my parents had no role, because that, if it was the cover story, it just supports the version of the other story. So, We went through Vimshottari Dasha, we used transits. By the way, how about... Okay, I will check this later, because in the previous charts, the first murder happens when Mars is also ruling the solar return charts for the year. That I will check later for when I will form all the charts into the book. Also, I used again the Karesh situation, the rulers of the 22nd Rikana and 64th Navamsha. And we checked divisional charts. So this is the tools I used in this analysis. And the main question is, could astrology, if taken seriously at the time, have prevented what later unfolded? Again, together with genetic even analysis. What if parents, being after noticing that the child doing these experiments with animals, they would go to the psychologist or psychiatrist. Right, even this could help to prevent things. What if the warrior gene has been tested on Jeffrey, and this alone could give another red flag and another idea to watch him closely, to watch him in his development. So, based on Rāśi alone, plus divisional charts, an astrologer could have warned that to minimize the paternal influence could be actually beneficial for Jeffrey in this situation. To protect the moon from the influence of all the malefics is to add more stability and nourishment and benefic guidance. Maybe add more counseling and discipline, the right one, discipline in the life of the person. The astrologer would have said this boy must be carefully handled, or his inner fire will burn others. If Lionel was removed from picture early on, his Saturn on Jeffrey's Ketu, maybe it wouldn't trigger the pathology. Without the constant affliction from father, Jeffrey's chart is still troubled, but Jupiter in 4th could breathe, and maybe it would add some beneficial influences. If his mom left immediately instead of collapsing into depression more and more, maybe if she had left early, at least maternal nurturing or therapy could have buffered the afflictions. And even with her own instability, her instincts about Jeffrey's brain and condition suggest that she had an awareness of something bad happening. That awareness might have become intervention if she wasn't paralyzed by her depression. Realistically, astrology can see, but it cannot. It can see something, but it cannot erase them. And as a preventive tool, it could have redirected a little bit this destiny. But again, we cannot be sure about that. But Probably Jeffrey would still have struggled with urges. But if early intervention appears in his life, the difference will be 17 months who were killed. They would still be alive today. And I think this is why my project is powerful and have a meaning to the society. It shows that astrology is not only about describing, but it's about intervening. This case is a proof of what happens when warnings, potential warnings, ignored, and what could be saved if they were not ignored. Thank you for attention. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.